Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about
sex,
love,
magic,
desire,
purpose,
bliss,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves. There's so much judgment and shame that props up polarity, that ruled our separation world. As much as I can see that separation world for what it is, I still carried a little bit of that within me. And I still found myself wanting to decide what was good and what was bad. Although I could see that that separation world was held together by the temples. And I could see that it was all bullshit. And I could see the damage it was causing to our world, to the people in it, to everything else. And those people who were still fighting on either side and both sides and all the things. And I do attribute that freedom from all of that to the karmic undoing process and hell. And living my fate and all the rest of it, because I found like the broader I became and the greater freedom my soul had, as it were, or just the greater freedom I had, the less I needed to like judge anything or even use judgment to keep myself in line or even other people in line. But I still found myself holding pieces of it. So actually the idea that nothing is bad anymore actually is far easier said than done, even for someone who genuinely is quite rebellious and who doesn't like being told what to do and who likes pushing against boundaries and all of those things, I was still somehow playing in them. Even despite all the work I'd done and who I was at my core, I was still marked and defined by the rules that govern our world.
Yeah, and all the behaviors that fall in line with it. It is so not easy. And I know we've discussed this, so I'm kind of like, all right, maybe this is just a bit of review, but when we've spent so much time having wired in that behavior, so we weren't just born with it, because most of us weren't necessarily born with it. Some of us, yes, we're born with our karma.
I mean, honestly, I remember someone said it and it sounds trite, but no baby is born knowing like what color skin they have.
Yeah.
And that it's different from other people's color skin. Or that the way they feel is bad, or we socialize all these bullshit rules and then we make them true. Yeah,
exactly. It skews our perspective in such a way that then just gets reinforced. And so for those of us who carried karma, we already had that sort of in us, right? Some of us might call it original sin, but we have that, and then our experience just kind of skews to that. And we just kind of like ride that kind of circular wave through our lives until we can find that kind of like peaceful waters.
But also I'm thinking about even those who didn't have karma. When I think about season 10, for example, like what if it never happened, right? It's the 1.0, as it were. Separation still defines our lives to a degree that we are informed by it, even if we're fighting against it.
Or resisting it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really hard to come to complete acceptance of everything and everyone all at once at all one time, because some of it's really fucking shitty.
Yeah, no, it's going to take, I mean, to be honest though, it's going to take lifetimes.
Fair.
It will take lifetimes. And that's why we need the karmic undoing process, because that brings us and delivers us to a point of consciousness where we can eradicate it for ourselves, which is something that we have to, for some of us, might have to continually work through. And it's that path to bliss that's going to make us confront those final pieces. And that's okay, because once we can do that, then we go on our merry way and we can maybe carve a path for others to follow behind and make space for those younger generations. But it will take a long ass time. And I hate that. And it's not because I'm impatient. I just think it's such crap.
And it does really affect us.
It really does.
And sometimes I catch myself living outside the bounds of that totally. And that also feels a bit weird.
I know, right? You're like, ooh.
But I do find that it gets easier and more fun the more I do it. Because the less rules there are, the less anything's good or bad. I mean, even I'm thinking about like the episodes we did in that season. I know I'm referencing it so much, but the ones about gold digging and cheating and all these things that we've kind of always held in certain ways. And now I'm just thinking like, you can do whatever the fuck you want, whenever you want to do it. And there's no such thing. Wow. That makes me feel like turned on with life.
There's something to be said for allowing, I mean, we struggled with honesty. It's why we had to have the previous episode about, honesty and dishonesty. But we struggle with that so much about being fully ourselves because we do feel like our world will fall apart if we are. And in many ways it will, because our tent poles require us to fit and conform to such a degree to fit within that narrow spectrum to prop it up. But when we are on this path to bliss, not only does it intersect with complete honesty, which is me speaking my truth, it intersects with full expression of self, right? Which isn't so much about honesty as in living our greatest truth, but acknowledging that I can be anything in the world and then become something else and so on. And that just means that we can experience numerous evolutions in a single lifetime. That's the implication of that.
So because the more nothing's good, nothing's bad, we can just keep going and doing whatever we feel. We can just start living lots of different lives.
Yeah.
So we do this because this feels right to me right now, and I'm like my greatest expression in this moment, but actually now my greatest expression is something else.
Yes, but you can understand the implications this has for the world of separation and the tent poles.
Or just in general, like, what do you mean? Yesterday you said you wanted to be a writer and tomorrow you want to be a composer. What the fuck is that about?
Mm-hmm. But if it means I can be anything in this world, it means I can't conform. And therefore, anybody who is at the top of these tent poles really does start to lose their power.
Oh, yeah, because you can't make me do anything or believe anything or think anything or...
I can't fit into a box now.
Mm.
And that house of cards starts to tumble. Separation benefits from us being in our karma, obviously, yes. Right? Because... you're not good enough, and therefore you're just going to be scrambling to prove that you're good enough, and then it keeps all the people above you in power.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. But once we're out of our karma, the tent poles weaken. But what it really takes to weaken those tent poles further is for us to really not conform at all. So there's absolutely nothing to uphold it. As in, I have complete freedom and interdependence with those, the relationships that support me, and I support them, but we have nothing to do with that. Or very little. So our contribution is minimal at best and is negligible. So it means very little.
But somehow we're still serving on a greater scale.
Precisely. So we're extracting our power and taking it back from that temple.
And then with that power, we're actually doing...
whatever the fuck
we're putting
want.
Yeah, and then putting light back into the world.
Yeah. That is... to be able to have numerous evolutions in a single lifetime is massively revolutionary.
So that means normally you come into Earth and you have one evolution, but you're saying you can do that more times.
You're lucky to have a single evolution in a lifetime.
Fine.
Is
this something we can do?
No, unfortunately, I don't think it's something that those of us who carried karma will be capable of numerous evolutions, maybe up to 2. But the reality is that this is something we're going to see about 5 generations from now.
Okay.
But it's still a big deal to have a full one, let alone 2. That's awesome.
A bit like that episode in a really old season where we discussed how younger generations and how tolerance is a key component to 5D.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're just
that's just no.
Yeah.
No more tolerance. Because just, we don't have tolerance for the old order. We're just going to live our lives.
We can't, because what's the point? It's not going to serve us. As we're seeing, these temples are barely in service to its people, the citizens of this world anyway.
They're not. Even the people who are ruled by the temples that are apparently winning are underneath it going, we don't like this.
So when I kind of talked about how, for those of us who carried karma, who are going through this, go through all the stages, I don't want to keep repeating, and on the path to bliss, to be able to go through up to 2 evolutions in a single lifetime is extraordinary.
Okay.
So if you find yourself from karma to bliss, so KMB, whether you go through magic or not, that's an entire evolution.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even like karma to oneness is a full evolution. That's not full evolution. That's about 3/4 evolution. So if you are path to bliss and into bliss, that is a full evolution. That's complete revolution. So if you can go from that, which is a single evolution, to 2 evolutions, what does that look like? That's pretty cool.
But what are you going to go from bliss to what?
More bliss? Extra bliss? I don't know. It's within bliss, because remember, once you're in bliss, you stop growing, as in you'll learn from life.
It's about maintaining it.
Exactly. Life stops being about growth and evolution and is just about evolution. So if you're kind of cruising in your evolutionary state of like, okay, I'm in bliss, but there's so much more I want to do, that's going to enable the next loop of evolution, should you choose it. But you're not going to be concerned about, am I going to get that full evolution in before I pass on? I don't think that's necessarily going to be a massive preoccupation for you.
So what's going to be the thing that holds us back?
Our inability to keep our minds open and our world to the possibilities therein, right? So if we cannot hold the idea that there is greater potential than what we see, we're going to get stuck and stunted. And that's kind of what you talked about in terms of being able to hold multiple realities at the same time. And I know we've said that here and there throughout, but the ability to hold myriad ideas and possibilities at one time.
It's like, this is shit now, but it won't be shit later, for example.
Yes, but a bit more than that, if we can say that. And that's certainly just being able to hold, like what you said, shit now, it's not shit later. Okay, that holds potential. And it certainly is more ideal than, the judgment and polarity. Because as long as you're holding some form of polarity, you're keeping up those temples. Doesn't matter if you think that you're on the moral right.
Yeah.
Or not. It doesn't matter. As long as you're kind of holding judgment around one thing, then you're supporting a temple.
Well, also because you don't know what's shit now. Is it shit now? And I remember I said this to you just before we started recording today. And I said, I just have this feeling that everything is going to be perfect. When I look back, it'll all be perfect. Mm-hmm. It's that. I mean, that was obviously on a personal level. But
I was going to say on a personal level, it might be easier to grasp that.
That's
on a larger global level, it might not.
But then what about all like the younger generations who are getting like really militant about stuff?
From their perspective, and echoing what we said in a previous episode this season, we're getting to the point where time is up. Whether you're either going to catch the train or you're not. And I hate saying that because I hold the hope and, potential for all. But the reality is that in this consciousness game, we can only hold the door open for so long. And for some, they might think they're doing the younger generations a favor by indoctrinating them. But the reality is, and we're just perpetuating and foisting our karma, or our karmic stories at least, and themes onto another generation. Whatever philosophy, whatever ideology you support, and then kind of trying to put it on the younger generations for them to support it as well, so you feel validated. But we know that often that validation comes from our karmic issue, so we're just constantly feeding the illusion. But these younger generations, if they're not manipulated or exploited, they have that sense of truth within. They have that sense of divinity within, so they don't quite need that. What they need is for us to make room for all the honest expression they can offer. And that's what we're not doing, right? Because we're just constantly filling that void with all of our noise instead. But that's the point, is at some point, they're going to get sick of it. They're going to get sick of the indoctrination. It's just going to stop lining up with their own, interestingly, they want to use this term, with their own ideals, as in what they view to be the ideal, which is effectively the divine.
And that's not about like, if we're talking about compassion, it's not about like sympathy or pity, but it's just an openness and an acknowledgement of limitless possibilities. You might not know. And I always thought about it this way: if I had the exact same experience as someone else in exactly the same body and exactly the same everything, I'd be doing exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if I can understand that, then I can open my mind enough to understand that they think they're right and that everyone's doing their best. It doesn't have to be, I understand you and I'm going to agree with you. It's just, you're doing you.
Yeah.
I think it's just when we go into something new, even if it's better, even if it feels more true, even if it brings us more joy, there is a human inclination to go back to what we know. From the very micro of, I feel like I'm living this, I'm going to choose to see this new experience under the lens of my old stuff, just so I feel comfortable in what's happening, rather than I'm being stretched in a different way, to something as big as a whole new world order.
If our world after 2024 is not going to operate or function as we once thought it would or could, There's different ways that we can interpret that. And you're right. I think in many ways, this podcast came out. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was really born for you in many ways, right? And from that, we started to see the bigger perspective around karma. And through that, what started to also come through was a lot more about the world than we could see at the time. And I'm not going to Debbie down this episode to the best of my ability.
But it's too late. Keep going.
No, I think what's happening though, and I think what we started to see happen in 2020 were all the things in the predictions that nobody believed would come. People had their heads so far up their asses because of their karmic stories and their karmic issues and their lives being ruled by their karmic themes, that a lot of the stuff was happening sort of behind the scenes that started to then come forward and show itself. And people were not prepared because they were too distracted. And the tentpoles were always really good at the game of distraction and capitalizing on people's karma to keep them completely preoccupied while they just kind of played their power hands. Now, after 2024, what I'm effectively seeing and what we're all going to start seeing, this is not going to shock anyone because the hints are there, the stories are there, but it's just a matter of whether or not you're seeing it with open eyes, which is this new world order that is to come is effectively an emergence. So like you had a new world order after World War II. So what's coming and has already been implemented in certain societies is one in which, while we had government in the one after World War II, this one is going to be much more tech and entrepreneurs working with governments and acting on their behalf.
That's so shit.
But this kind of dystopian reality is already there. The moment we start seeing these smaller freedoms and choices get impinged upon, the bigger ones come next. It's the erosion of our freedoms.
So how does that work? We're all moving towards more freedom within, yet the world is trying to make us even less free. How does that work? We go live on an island?
No, it's the power balance that has to be maintained by the tent poles. So as long as we were in our karma and we had very little to no power, but it seemed like, depending on the society we lived in, we were somewhat free. We can live under that illusion of freedom. Nothing mattered. We just kind of go on our merry way and do whatever. But as we go through our evolutions, as consciousness gets raised and these younger generations come through, can't do it anymore. So what are the tent poles going to do? They're going to try control more. And we saw that in 2020. What happens is, okay, post 2024, what's next? If we saw all the shit that went down between 2020 and 2024, you can only imagine what's to come with the rise of AI and what facial recognition technology, which has been around for much longer than people realize. And it was just a matter of how to implement it and how to justify it. So what you're going to see with the younger generations and the freedom, because it's fascinating to me when you look at, as we've kind of seen, there's a level of conformity with the young generation. But that younger generation of conformists, of seeming conformists on the surface, they do enjoy their freedoms. And the generations that they will be birthing are going to be more the punk rock generation. Because I was like, when are we going to see more punk rock again in this world? I'm kind of like, you may not care, but I'm like, we need more punk rock. We're kind of losing our edge here. We need people with edge. And I remember getting, don't worry, they're here. They're coming. They're coming. They just wouldn't fit right now. They'd get eaten up. Soon enough, the freer the souls, the less influenced they'll be by this new world order. What is that going to look like? Is it going to look like external revolution where we have like uprisings, violent uprisings? Are they going to be more through tech? Like, not quite certain. I don't think we can even ask because it may not necessarily be within our lifetime. So it'll be within our children's lifetime. So it's just a matter for us, it's a matter of us bringing in all this information, allowing people to do what they will, but giving them the tools that they need for it.
So obviously the initial prophecy, 2020 to 24, some things were going to always finish at 2024. And one of them was like apparent freedom.
The disillusionment of power, as in.
So how long is this next phase of like we are being controlled through tech going to last?
It's going to last for a good while. They won't say a minimum 16 years around, but it's around 2028 that we're really going to see it so in our faces, we'll be very disgusted by it. Because for all that we know and see, you can count on the fact that there's about 3/4 of a whole other life within the tech world that we're not seeing, that has not yet been made public. And this is not to say we need to fear AI. We do not, it's not about saying we need to fear what is to come. But the point is that we can only trust ourselves to know what's best for us. Blind faith, blind trust in entities that have never had our back, that don't necessarily have our best interest at heart, that only serve to manipulate and exploit public good for personal gain and benefit, is certainly worth questioning. So make of it what you will. We're not here to take a stand against something, but we are always going to be in the corner, for me at least, for humanity's benefit. I mean, that's what I'm here for.
I'm here for love, apparently. This episode is brought to you by Karma Magic Bliss. For more information, resources, and links to our books, check out our website, karmamagicbliss.com, and Karma Magic Bliss across all socials.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.